Have you ever felt like someone was staring at you, even when there was no one there? It's a feeling that lingers in the pit of your stomach, one that you can't shake no matter how hard you try. For me, that feeling became a nightmare that I still can't escape even after all this time. My name is Jack, and I take the same late-night train home from work every evening. It's a routine, a boring, monotonous part of my life that I've gotten used to over the years. I'm not a particularly anxious person, never one to get freaked out over the small things. But everything changed that night when I got on that train just like any other night and noticed the stranger. It started off like any typical evening. The train was mostly empty, the same usual passengers scattered around the carriages. Mostly people who were half asleep or buried in their phones. The lights flickered overhead, casting shadows across the worn seats. I settled into my usual spot by the window, the soft hum of the train and the rhythmic clattering of the wheels against the tracks barely keeping me awake. As the train started moving, I put on my headphones and leaned back, trying to relax after a long day at work. That's when I saw him. At first, it was nothing, just a quick glance out of the corner of my eye. A figure sitting across the aisle, staring straight at me. He was dressed in a long, dark coat, his face obscured by the shadow of his hood. I couldn't make out any details, but the feeling of being watched hit me immediately. I looked away, trying to shake the unease that crept up my spine. But every time I looked back, there he was, still staring. I tried to focus on my phone, my music, but the weight of his gaze kept pulling me back to him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it felt like he was getting closer with each passing second. I shifted in my seat, uncomfortable, and looked around the train. Everyone else seemed completely oblivious. Some people were asleep, others were lost in their own little worlds. But this man, this stranger, wasn't like the others. His eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, unmoving. I should have said something, should have gotten up and moved, but there was something about him that made me freeze. I wasn't sure if it was fear, or if I just couldn't tear my eyes away from the intensity of his stare. But it felt like something wasn't right. The train rumbled on, the sound of the tracks filling the space between us, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to rationalize it. He was just a stranger. Maybe he was staring at me because I was the only one across from him. Maybe he was lost in thought. But no matter how many excuses I came up with, I couldn't shake the sense that he was watching me, studying me. Every time I looked back, he was still there, his hood pulled low over his face, his eyes dark and intense. Then, the train made a sharp turn, and I briefly lost sight of him. I took a deep breath, relieved for the brief moment of respite, but when I looked back a few seconds later, he was in the seat across the aisle from me, closer now, much closer. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. How had he moved so quickly? I hadn't heard anyone get up, hadn't seen him shift in his seat. He was just closer. My heart started racing. I looked at the other passengers, wondering if anyone else noticed. But no one seemed to care. No one seemed to be aware of the presence in the train that was growing more and more oppressive. I shifted in my seat, trying to turn away from his gaze, but it didn't help. His eyes were still locked onto mine, unwavering. I stood up, my hands shaking, and moved toward the next car. I had to get away from him. I thought maybe a change of scenery would help, but as I walked into the next car, my stomach dropped. There he was, sitting in the same seat across the aisle, still staring at me, still unblinking. How had he gotten there so quickly? I hadn't seen him move, hadn't seen him pass me in the narrow aisles. But there he was, as though he had been waiting for me. My breath caught in my throat. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I took a step back, my heart hammering in my chest. There was no way he had moved that fast. No way he could have gotten past me without me noticing. But the more I looked, the more I realized something. No one had entered the car since the last stop. No one had boarded the train, no one had come from the other end of the car. And yet, he was always there, always closer. The train's next stop came and went, but he didn't get off. He didn't move. And when I moved again, when I shifted from car to car, I found him waiting for me in each one, always just a little closer. His stare never left me, and with every passing moment, it felt more intense, more predatory. The air in the train felt colder, heavier, as if the very atmosphere had changed. My heart pounded in my chest as I rushed through car after car, trying to get away from him, but he was always there, no matter how many cars I passed through. I couldn't escape. Finally, I found myself at the end of the train, the last car. It was completely empty, no other passengers, no conductor, just the sound of the train speeding through the darkened tunnels. I turned to face the door, ready to try and make my way to the exit when I heard footsteps behind me. My breath caught in my throat as I slowly turned around. He was standing there, right behind me, closer than ever. But this time he wasn't just staring at me. This time, his lips curled into a grotesque, twisted smile. "You can't escape," he whispered, his voice low and raspy, like it was coming from somewhere deep, from somewhere that wasn't his own. I froze, my body paralyzed with fear. There was nowhere to run. The train rumbled on, its headlights casting eerie shadows as it sped through the night. And then, in that moment, I realized something far worse than the fear of being followed. This wasn't just a man. He wasn't human. He couldn't have been. And that was when the doors of the train slammed shut, the lights flickered out, and the train came to a screeching halt. The doors opened, but there was no station. There was nothing but an endless, dark void. The man, no thing, was still standing there, his smile widening, his eyes now black pits of nothingness. "Come with me," he said. And before I could scream, the darkness swallowed me whole. The train continued on, but I wasn't on it anymore. Neither was the man. Neither was anyone else. The train had taken us somewhere else. Somewhere no one would ever return from.